At a time when global power equations are continuously shifting with unprecedented speed, India is leveraging geoeconomic disruptions into a strategic advantage. Fueled by resilient growth and a robust demographic dividend, India is actively shaping the narrative of global economic engagement. These points were brought in focus in the recently concluded 11th edition of the Times Network India Economic Conclave held in New Delhi. This year, the theme of IDFC First Bank Presents India Economic Conclave was Navigating Geoeconomics, in line with the current flux in the world order. In this episode, watch Akash Gulati, CEO International Shipping Shiprocket, throwing light on the new age of smart logistics. Also watch Patrick Anthony, CEO Ikea India, talking about how to ride the consumption wave.
Akshay, thank you for your time today and gracing us at the India Economic Conclave.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Tell me, with this whole pressure about the timely deliverables, it must be a hard job at Shiprocket.
Oh, it is. Essentially, logistics, it's a tough business to be in. And especially when you're a tech company, which is pretty much in between all the players in the ecosystem, from the seller to the actual 3PL partner, to making sure that the customer is there with the money, whether if it's a COD order, to take the order on time. There are lots of things that can go wrong. And I think we love those businesses. That's the reason we're in this business, because complexity is a friend of technology.
Do you think there is this whole debate about speed versus profitability? Because there is that urgency of delivery and delivering it intact, that sort of eats into profitability?
It's a question of building, it's about changing habits, right? We all used to order from food delivery apps and not pay anything, and now we're all used to paying a platform fee and no one cares. Eventually, no one is looking at that platform fee, so things will change. It's about creating habits that change. I don't know whether it's necessarily good to have 10 orders delivered to you every day, each being 200 rupees. It's not good for the environment. It might be good for logistics companies, but generally, I think consumer habits are changing. I think the way the business is evolving is there are two sides of our brain almost when we're ordering. There is the dopamine effect, like you call it, where I want this and I want it right now. I don't care if I have to, I'm not going to club 5 things with it. It's going to cost me 10, 20 rupees, I'll get it. And then there is the selection-based, I really like this product.
But do I really need it?
If you don't really need it, and I'm willing to wait 2-3 days for it, because eventually it's not like your quick commerce store can get the entire selection of the world. That just doesn't work supply chain-wise or financially. So there is the e-commerce selection, which will always be there. What is going to happen is the 4 to 5 day delivery timelines have come down to 48 hours in tier 1 and metro cities. Again, products are being stored closer to consumers. That's also good for the environment. And the most exciting part of what we're doing on the domestic side and what we see happening is the tier 2, tier 3 economy. You can see this with platforms like Meesho that have come up. Today, if you're living in a tier 2 city in India, you have more choice than you've ever had.
Tell me, in your experience, which are the Indian brands which have the might, which sell via your platform, you think can really go global and already are on that way?
If you talk about some of the Indian brands where I truly believe there's a perception of quality, right? Think about leather goods like Napadori, right? It's a world-class beating product. I've been to the store in the UK, seen the store in India. World-class beating product, but niche customer. Absolutely love it. I mean, at the end of the day, someone walking in to buy a high-quality leather product should love to buy that product. You look at beauty personal care brands like a Forest Essentials. Now, a Forest Essentials will have 20 brands in India, which I believe are of the quality which can succeed globally. It's just a question of building the distribution channel. And India does have, I believe, a copyright on Ayurveda, right? People in international markets view Indian products in Ayurveda category as good products. So there's that part of the segment where I think India has a natural right to win. And then there is the handmade, handcrafted, unique segment, which definitely may not have scale. I mean, it's not commoditized, but we definitely have a right to win there. You talk about leather goods in general, coming out of India, whether it's journals, accessories, Christmas time for gifting in the US, these are world-beating products and they don't even need to be branded. So there are niches and categories where India has a right to win. And it's no longer us competing only on price, because I think that mindset changed 10 years ago, where we were competing with other countries on India, who could produce the cheapest product. I think brands that will scale B2C globally are going to be quality products, not just cheapest products. It's actually hard to compete, in my opinion, in many categories. And B2B, of course, is a different ball game.
Tell me, as manufacturing shifts more and more to India under China Plus One, you think physical ecosystems are something which are going to grow and which is something that we will need to build in India?
Absolutely. So what makes me most excited about cross-border commerce for India is the fact that we have a very robust domestic e-commerce business, very robust domestic retail business. Eventually, if you don't have that physical infrastructure supported by domestic growth, you are not going to be able to succeed globally. And that physical infrastructure is extremely important in India. And it's, again, we're scratching the surface. Like I said, we're still only delivering in 48 hours. A lot of e-commerce deliveries are happening in 48 hours, but that's because we're not catering to a lot of the e-commerce market, which we could be catering to in India. And as physical infrastructure grows, road infrastructure grows. So for my business, for example, and I'm not talking about just Shiprocket domestic, but Shiprocket cross-border, till about last year, the only option to get a product for me from, let's say, Surat or Bombay to Delhi to ship it out to New York or London was air. And it was just taking too long. But just in the last 2 years with the road infrastructure that's improved, a lot of my volume now comes by road. I'm able to get stuff from Surat, Mumbai, Rajasthan to Delhi in 36 hours. And yes, I can get it by air in 12 hours, but it reduces the cost significantly for my customers to be able to do this. So the physical infrastructure improving, big part of what we're doing. The government has launched something called e-commerce export hubs, which allows exporters to keep goods close to international gateways like Mumbai, like Delhi, or manufacturing gateways. That physical infrastructure is just starting. It's just being set up. That is going to, and this is something that China did really well. And it's literally a page out of their playbook. Things are changing. And from the domestic side, the infrastructure is all around quick commerce. I think you cannot get away from this. The infrastructure of smaller warehouses being built around cities is going to make supply chains quicker, is going to make deliveries more efficient. And all of this is going to help Indian brands become more robust, become larger, which helps them also succeed globally, because eventually India, for most brands, is going to be their first port of call before they think globally. It's seldom you find export-only brands.
I'm just curious to ask, you must be working with so many founders and so many people with new innovative ideas. What's that one common mistake that they make that the business fails eventually?
I think it's the one thing that has always struck out to me is that we all try to do too many things at once. Ideas, generally if you're a startup entrepreneur, ideas are not short, there's no shortage of ideas either in you or in your team. I think the prioritization is the biggest challenge. Every startup founder I have met has been, including myself. So if I was to share an anecdote, when Zomato invested in Shiprocket, I was running our international business, not just cross-border, but our business in Saudi and Dubai. And we had met Dipinder, and the first thing he met me after the investment, he's like, shut it down. And I was like, I'm betting my entire career on this, and you're telling me to shut it down. And he's like, you have such a big opportunity in India. Why are you doing this? And as a founder, you don't like it. You're like, okay, I respect you. And
Ego hurt ho gayi.
Credit to him. Like a year later, I did shut it down and moved back because the writing was on the wall. The cross-border business in India had much more opportunity for me than those businesses. And it's going back to that same thing, which is just because something seems like a good idea doesn't mean you have to do it. Right? There is a time for every idea, and sometimes there is no time, and some ideas just should not. It doesn't matter how big that opportunity is. There is something bigger you can do or something better that you can do which has a higher chance of success. And these are instances you never forget, because yes, I remember seething inside at that point of time and then going back and saying, boss, you were right. Cross-border is something I pivoted to and started focusing on, and it was the best decision we could have made for Shiprocket.
What's the uncomfortable truth when it comes to D2C businesses such as yours?
I think it's a tough business because you are being judged on every delivery by your customers. Think about hospitality, think about restaurants, think about hotels. Every interaction is an opportunity for a customer to judge you, a customer to be unhappy. And you have to be on your A game all the time. And unfortunately, it's hard, especially in a business like ours, in hospitality and restaurants, etc. the whole business is catered around the experience. We are catered around the experience, but we're a logistics business. The chances of things going wrong is very hard. So a lot of times you wake up only to bad news because 99% of the good news is taken for granted. It's the 1% of the bad news that you wake up to and you start questioning, what is happening? And eventually you just have to realize that logistics is a tough business. India is geographically a complex country. Cross-border with all that's happening around the world is even harder. And what I've realized is if you can help, even issues will happen, right? You can try and mitigate the issues, minimize the issues, but what matters is how you react to solve the issues. Rather than beating yourself on why it happened, yes, we'll do the RCA, we'll figure it out. But if you get lost in that whole concept of, why did this happen, and don't focus on turning around that customer anxiety into customer delight, and you won't be able to do it every time, but if you can do it even 10% of the times, I think that is the uncomfortable truth that I feel in any B2C business, not just D2C, but where you're consumer facing, and we are consumer facing. That is the biggest win that you can make, because at the end of the day, those customers will remember you for life, right? They will be the ones who will be your biggest evangelists, and whether it's a seller or an end user, in both cases, they will be the ones who will be the reason for your success. Not your technology, not your investors. It is what you do on the ground that matters.
Please the consumer, basically.
Absolutely.
Bottom line.
Try your best to do it.
Thank you so much, Akshay. Lovely speaking with you.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for joining us here at the India Economic Conclave. How many stores do you have in mind, say, in the next 5 years? Any specific cities or states that you're targeting? And is there going to be some change in the way you approach the markets?
So if you just look back 10 years ago, Ikea was a very different company. We did big stores and no online anywhere in the world, basically. So today we have a very different setup. We have a different toolbox of things, how we can reach and engage the consumers. So we have the big stores that are, 30,000, 35,000, 40,000 square meters, so in very, very large buildings. And we have 8,000 square meter stores now, like in Mumbai. We have one here, which is 1,500 square meters. We have the apps, we have online, we have the remote sales. So it's a very different way of meeting the customer today. So with that, as a backbone to the question about the next steps, I would say the ambition is we have today 6 physical touch points only. We should have plus 30 in 5 years, and being present then in and around Delhi NCR, maybe a little bit up to Chandigarh, Lucknow, Jaipur. We will look down to Chennai, Pune, and then do much more deeply into Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, where we have then the big markets.
Interesting. A lot of cities can really look forward to an IKEA in their city. Talking about the Indian consumer, how will you define an Indian consumer of IKEA?
So we see various consumers here. I would say we have the young starting out group, which is, I think, the feeling why one really wants to be in India, really from the heart. There's so many young people starting out, so many young people moving into cities, and who will help them, right, to get a good life, a good start in life. And there I think IKEA really is the company, actually. So they don't really know how to do home furnishing. They have never done anything, and come to an IKEA store and go through all these room sets, see ideas, tips, how can I do with my home, yeah? And then having price points from low to high, giving these people an opportunity to start a life in the best way. That's maybe where you have your feelings, as well as the young families who have ever-changing needs. All of you here are parents. You know that the needs change every day. You have a home that was fit for 2, and all of a sudden there's a 3rd, and then everything changes, and then the 4th comes, and then something changes again. Yeah. So people with children are the also core. I think starting out and the people with children are our core target groups. Then, of course, everybody's welcome. You have the people with a lot of money who loves design, and they come into IKEA and they buy a designer element. They may not buy our normal products because they don't maybe resonate with them, but there's so much high design in what we do, so there's also something for them, right? So I think we target to everybody, but if I would say core, it's young starting out, and it's people with children, young families, and who has to change their house, 10 times in a period of 15 years or so.
You know, it's a very interesting mix in IKEA, India specifically, that we see. There is aspiration, and then there is affordability. How do you really maintain that balance? Because you also have got a population which does not have a lot of disposable income, but yet find something or the other in IKEA India. So how do you sort of maintain that balance?
I think the important is to localize how you meet the products. We have basically around the world the same things, more or less, right? So people do the same things around the world, but they do them slightly different in different places. So what we do is a lot of studying both low-income families and high-income families, what's going on in their home, what are the things that happens, and how can we make that a solution for them that they haven't thought of. So when they visit an IKEA store, go to our online tools, they see ideas and solutions to their problems with different levels of price points. But where we go in from is to inspire them and to find a new way of seeing a problem they might even have understood, like how do I store my shoes in a good way, or how do I store things to save morning time, how do I not just put all my shirts on top of each other in the cabinet, but I rather sort them in a certain way so they match each other, it's quickly to find. So all these things that you haven't thought of, you get that inspiration in a store, and that then you take with you home, and you take bits and pieces depending on you have a lot of money, you do maybe more, if you have a little money you start. Because the fun thing with IKEA is that anybody can participate and start, because there's always something at their price point, and I think creating that inspiration regardless of income is also what we're out for.
Did you have to make a lot of changes to your product basket for India?
Not so much in the overall product range. I would say around the world, people do the same things. You wake up, you eat breakfast, you get dressed, or maybe you get dressed before you eat breakfast sometimes, depending on who you are. Then you do something. So it's the same activities that goes on. Then they go on in different rooms and in a little bit different ways. So it's super important that when we study our markets, we do a lot of home visits, try to figure out what people are doing where. An example could be a basic one, the shoe storage. In India, often you put your shoes outside the entrance door in a little rack. In Sweden, where I'm from, you would put them inside of the door in a little rack. If you live in Portugal, where I have lived, you don't take off your shoes at home. You walk through your whole apartment, and at the end of the day, you put them next to the bed inside of your cupboard that you have. So we need to figure out all these differences and meet these differences in the room settings. So when you go to an IKEA store in India, it looks radically different from an IKEA store in Japan or in Sweden. Not the products, but how we have combined them to solutions that meet your everyday need at that market. And this is really how we localize. Then we're adding a number of gap fillers, a chapati frying pan or certain tea things. The mattresses.
Because we cook also differently.
Yeah, you cook differently. But you also sleep differently because your mattress is much harder than in Europe. You also prefer often to have patterned bed sheets, which we don't have in other countries. So we adapt partly, but the big thing is to figure out what people are doing at home, where they do it, and how then to meet that with the great products we have.
Are you also sourcing locally? I guess yes, 30-odd%?
Yeah, so we have, not maybe no, but many knows, but we have been in India for 50 years already sourcing for the global markets. So today we have about 43 local suppliers that then are producing for Ikea worldwide. We export about 400 million euros worth of home furnishing to the stores around the world, which is much more than we import, for example. So we are a much bigger producer than we are an importer. This is then also used locally. So about 30% of the sales volume is locally made. And we have ambitions to grow this, so we hope the target is 50% in 5 years. But that depends, of course, on the capabilities of the market. It depends on the price points you can get, the quality of the products you can get, and so on. But the ambition is there.
So when you're saying that you're sourcing from India for the world, is it making in India for the world or sourcing just the raw material?
No, it's to make products in India. So
You're actually making in India for the world.
yes, yes.
You're also focusing on increasing your sourcing from India to about 50-odd%. What is your assessment of Indian consumers? What is it that Indian consumers love to buy the most from Ikea India in their stores?
The bedroom is actually the focus area. So we
Why so?
No, I think it's a room in India that is different from in many other markets actually, because let's say in Sweden it's the sleeping room. You don't do much more in a bedroom, while in India, in many family room, it's not only a bedroom. It's a study room, it's a makeup room. It has many functions, which makes it a very important room. And this is different actually. So we sell more bedroom-related products here than in many other markets. This may be a unique one.
Okay, and let's also talk to you a little bit about the food aspect, the food business that we also see simultaneously. What are the plans going forward?
Food is very important, not only for Ikea, but also for India. So here we have a beautiful match between the two. Because don't think any country in the world is more passionate about their food than India, so great. And the story behind the food is that first store we opened in Sweden like 60, 70 years ago, our founders saw that the couples, they came in, they looked at the furniture, and after 1 hour roughly, the man left the store with the wife because he was hungry and didn't want to spend any more time there. And then they never came. So he quickly understood that if I want to keep the family in the store, I need to feed them halfway. So that's why the food started to come already in the first store. And now it's a mandatory component of every IKEA store is the food. It's there to make people, in a way, buy more sofas. But it has also really brought the Swedishness to the store. So it's a way for us to brand ourselves as Swedish, and we should then offer a lot of Swedish products there. It's Swedish food. You can try something new and exciting, and somehow it's a very popular part of the IKEA experience. So it's a quite big group who come to IKEA mainly for food, and then they will look a little bit at other things also.
Are you planning to add some Indian dishes too, or perhaps some international cuisine?
So it's either Swedish or Indian, you can say. So we wouldn't go to put too much Italian in there. So it's Swedish for the Swedishness, or Indian for the local flavors. So we have in Hyderabad, it's biryani, and we have samosas, and we have things so that you can try also Indian food if you want. So it's the same all over. You try a bit of Swedish and a bit of local, but always as an amazing price point. So you can also feel that at IKEA, I get the best value for money, not only in the furniture, but also in the food.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Patrick. Appreciate you speaking with us today. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Very lovely to be here. Thank you all.